Hello everyone, I am CA Gautam Lal, Secretary WIRC. On behalf of WIRC of ICAI, I welcome you today to this wonderful series, Learning from Legend. Today we are honored to have our esteemed guest, Y.M.KALE sir, who is also our past president. Sir, we welcome you today. Thank you so much for accepting our invite. We also have our past chairman, CA Sunilji Goyal, who will be posing difficult questions to understand from our esteemed legend today. We welcome you, sir. I am also joined by our chairman, CA Ankit Rathi, and our past chairman, CA Murtaza Kachwala. I welcome everyone for this today's session. I quickly hand over to our chairman, WRC CA Ankit Rathi.
Yeah, in this series of learning from legends, sir, we have already interviewed two legends past. Today we are lucky enough to have with us past president of our esteemed institute, CA Y.M.KALE sir. Sir, thank you so much, sir. I am 100% sure, sir. Your life journey will definitely inspire many chartered accountants as well as students. We also thankful and grateful to our past chairman, CA Sunil Goyal sir, for agreeing to conduct today's sessions. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Over to you, sir.
Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Murtaza. Thank you, Gautam. Sir, welcome. Hello and welcome to this program, Learning from the Legend, an initiative of WIRC of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. I am your host, Sunil Goyal, and today's guest is Mr. Yasodan Madhusudan Kale. Fondly we call him Kale Sahab. Mr. Kale is a distinguished professional and a seasoned leader in the field of finance and accounting. With a wealth of experience and expertise, he has served as the president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, demonstrating his commitment to advancing the profession and driving excellence in the industry. Mr. Kale's visionary leadership and dedication have significantly contributed to the shaping the accounting landscape, earning him respect and admiration from peers and professionals alike. A strong believer of integrity, ethics, and transparency, Mr. Kale is known for his humorous style, making the environment very light and friendly. It will be an honor and privilege to learn from a true statesman today. Let me begin with extending a warm greeting on the occasion of Gudi Padwa. Mr. Kale, welcome.
You have been more generous than accurate, but nevertheless, I am touched.
Thank you, sir. So, shall we begin, sir?
Yes. Reminiscences are tricky business because unlike chronological events, they allow selectivity. And selectivity can bring its own hazards, but we shall try to be as, unbiased as possible. Please.
Thank you, sir, and we'll follow your advice of following the chronology. So, sir, how was your upbringing and the challenges, especially when you were born to a very illustrious family?
Very briefly, father was an engineer, but a government servant, and mother was a graduate in law. Because of father's transferable jobs, I suffered disruptive changes in the medium of instruction in my education. It began in Kheda, Panchmahal, Gujarat, with Gujarati Lipi and a primary school there. Then went on to Marathi medium after the breakup of the bilingual state into Pune, including a boarding house. And finally, the schooling ended in an English medium school in Mumbai. So that is a scary memory of having to adjust to three different mediums.
But you had a very privileged, childhood, because most of those that time the people were not having that kind of environment at home which you had.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but yes, certainly the parents spent some time working in London, and therefore, to that extent, one was left with various relatives and probably treated far better with less discipline.
Your father was an engineer, mother was a lawyer. So what influenced you to go for this profession?
Well, I'll tell you. Because of their working periods in London, there was a certain inspiration, a fancy to go abroad, and it was discovered that the chartered accountancy course would be less expensive than either Oxford or Cambridge. So to that extent, that inspired a desire to do CA. But more importantly, there was also the lure of a worldwide employment that was at that time possible with that qualification.
Yeah, I think that was more important because you born in a family which was financially they were well off.
Right.
But what you are saying is true today that the study of CA could be completed without any cash outflow because the stipends are so good today.
Yeah, but I can assure you that the task of obtaining a articleship in London was uphill. Top London firms greeted my persistent applications with a terse one-line refusal until my benefactor, I would say, a benign, renowned entrepreneur from Goa, Mr. V.D. Chaugule, he helped me with his references to secure articleship in Ferguson's London. So that is how it was accomplished, not due to my efforts. I am eternally grateful to God and to that family.
Thank you, sir. What was your formative career opportunity during the initial?
Well, no, I think I think it all really began when, well, I'll tell you, the initial impediment was rather unnerving. Contrary to all advice to go by a plane, I opted to go on a sea voyage. Okay, and in Aden Port, when the ship docked in Aden Port, I alighted and wandered far out into the marketplace, fascinated by merchandise I had never seen. Unexpectedly, there was a civil disturbance, curfew was declared. So I was faced with a terrible choice of either watching the ship sail away from the harbor or darting across open spaces despite the curfew. At that time, I must tell you that I had my first taste of true British humor. I explained my predicament to a policeman, and he said, well, as you dart across the square, I shall try and not shoot you in the back. So comparatively, after having suffered that experience, the rest of it was really easy. Alighting in Genoa, Italy, and then going on to boarding a Euro rail and slowly going across Europe, crossing Channel, and finally into England.
So that was your 18, 19 years of age?
Well, 18 years of age, and with this poignant experience, which I just narrated for this thing.
And how was your articleship there when you were pursuing?
No, I think it lasted 4 years, and then I returned to Ferguson's, I would say. The Ferguson's in India was much larger. It was a preeminent firm. I joined them in 1972. I was with them until 2002. I made it to partnership in 1980 and became one of the main partners in 1990s, but I exited in 2000. So you could say that in a sense, they are the people that I have to be grateful for. I owe much to A.F. Ferguson and the seniors which I encountered there. When I joined in 1972, the senior partner was still an Englishman. But the next senior partner, an Indian person, gentleman by the name of Mr. R.C. Khanna, was my greatest mentor, and he was technically par excellence. He was the one who brought me up professionally, and he also kindled the desire to contest CA elections, which is what took me to the council. So I would say the first thing about meeting good role models, etc., happened because I went into the council, came across our stalwarts, and then I served as chairman of Accounting Standards Committee and finally as president in 95, 96. But I think if you are really asking me in that kind of a thought influencer or role model type of situation, that really happened when I served a full 5-year term as India's representative on the board of the International Accounting Standards Committee, as it was then called. And there one came across legends, if you like, or luminaries across the accounting profession from Japan to USA. One was able to work closely with Michael Sharp of Australia, Sir Brian Carlsberg, Sir David Tweedy, who later became chairman of the International Accounting Standards, as also Jim Leisenring, vice chairman of the FASB, Financial Accounting Standard Board. So you could say real thought influencing or role model thing was there. The standard of scholarship and erudition around that table in the International Accounting Standard was almost intimidating. But by contrast, their humility was breathtaking, amazing. Once when I spoke to a very senior gentleman that his oration on the financial instrument subtleties was the best I had ever heard, he said, but that simply proves, young man, that you haven't been around enough in the world. That's sort of. The International Accounting Standards Committee used to hold its meetings in all sorts of exotic places for about a week, sometimes. So you could say that was the big change. But that is rather different from the profession, because I can see from your paper that your next question is going to be on the profession, which I will, of course, respectfully wait for you to ask. But this was, you can say, the role model setting and the thought influence.
Understood. So just going back, sir, you did your articleship in the UK.
Yeah.
We pursued our articleship more than 20 years later. You did that, and we were thinking that our articleship in India is much more rigorous than anywhere else. So do you think that that holds true?
I'll tell you. In 1972, when I returned back to India for good, CAs rode the high tide of the much sought after expertise in taxation.
Yes.
Okay, because the FIRA cum license Raj, as well as you could say the steep rates of marginal taxation, left no other choice for businesses except to indulge in the most abstruse tax planning, which you would find today incredible. As far as audit was concerned, there was simply a clamor for being empaneled, because there were large audits of public sector undertakings, nationalized banks, nationalized insurance companies. So the audit was veering in that direction. The tax rode high. And of course, for the mundane work, there was what was described in vernacular as certificate work. It resulted from the attestations required in the license Raj. However, to give you the correct position of the profession there, is extensions of practice areas like costing, management, accounting, financial management were already being popularized, and the emphasis was changing. That is, from computational rectitude and tracking of asset changes, chartered accountants were gradually moving towards complex resource allocations, forward-looking measurements, supporting business decisions, efficiencies and financial controls, and of course all this leading to the maximization of profits. Okay? Now all this new work was eagerly lapped up not only by CAs but the management consultancy divisions of large firms. Management services divisions really took off, which was probably before you even began your articles, at which I have this thing. Okay? Now, another feature which you would probably not even realize, with SEBI being such a preponderant influence, that in my day we were awed by an authority known as the controller of capital issues.
Right.
Now, he had the most intricate forms which had to be attested by chartered accountants. Now, looking back, I'm not sure whether those forms were more designed to obstruct issues of capital and bonus shares rather than facilitate them.
Yeah.
But that's how it worked, and gradually the new arrangements under SEBI were this thing. But to really lead you from that transition to your generation, as you said, they were difficult exams. What happened was that the risks assumed by financial institutions in giving term loans brought forth a whole new breed of CAs with an expertise which helped borrowers to satisfy the information needs of lenders.
Yes.
That
was
is what
in our
happened.
time.
That's right. And there was this further led to an appraisal of projects before committing of funds. And in due course, even the entrepreneurs realized that CAs were not merely number crunchers, but facilitators and procurers of vital and much needed finance. And on the part of the CAs, there was a realization, which is what you rightly point out, that there were many sectors of work outside the core audit, and we would be valued as advisors there. That is where your examinations began to include new subjects, provided we became the harbingers of solutions and not merely the posing of obstacles.
Yeah. Yes, sir. So you have been, in the profession for good about 30 years in India, and thereafter you moved to the industry. So you have seen both the sides of the, our profession and the, the sphere of the work. So what is your message
all right.
to the
I'll give you a message. My kind of profession, where I was, you could say, one of the main painters, underwent a huge change after the globalization and, you could say, post-liberalization era, the beginning of the advanced era. What happened was that a new order evolved, whereby professional services organizations who were integral parts of international networks began to offer over a diverse range, multidisciplinary business-focused approach advices, which was really different from the staid old firms that once thought of. Okay. Now, what that meant was that there was a new order.
Yeah.
Now, to regard this new order as unwelcome merely because I belong to the old order would be an exercise in misinformation and prejudice. I would say the new order did many things, at least three which were excellent. They offered an equality of opportunity. That is, a youngster who was unable to flourish his own practice could now join these large international networks as a chartered accountant and have the best of opportunities which he may not have had under the old system, which consisted, for the want of a better expression, of oligarchies. Okay? So the large numbers of CAs began to receive a kind of remuneration and reward which they could never have expected in the decades when I started. And there was one more.
That was late 90s.
Late 90s, I would say.
Right.
And it went on, okay. And there was one more feature which I can only comment with the benefit of hindsight, because at that time I wouldn't have the nerve to say that. The sharing of the
You
surplus
always had
in the
not
firm.
to say, sir. You have made your point all the time, so I have seen that.
Thank you. The sharing of the surpluses is today much fairer. In my day, the sharing of a surplus at the end of the day between the seniors and the junior partner had a very skewed slope, and that the defense for that was the happy expression career earnings. They said you in course of time would be able to sit in my chair, and at that time you can have the lion's share. But today make do with a little less.
Right. So, how has been your journey in pursuit of your objectives, many toils and tears you
Yes,
had to undergo?
I think there is an element of toils and tears. And let me tell you that circumstances so worked out, without going into it, it's very old now. Circumstances so worked out that at one point I was presented with a choice of either opting for a new area of work which will expose me to a zone of possible discomfort, or take the softer option, since I had already served as president and completed a 5-year term on IISc, to just hang up my boots and gracefully retire. Looking back at it, I think I made the difficult choice, but with the benefit of hindsight, chose correctly. I opted for a new career, exiting profession into industry, but at the age of 54, I assure you that it posed its own risks.
Yeah, it is difficult to change the
Extremely
career.
difficult, but providentially, I can never thank enough the great Hinduja family, who were an internationally renowned family of entrepreneurs, who took me on as an anchor for corporate governance and development. Dwell on this a little, that when businesses and related ecosystems face challenges that are both insidious and ubiquitous, and which is beyond their simpler English. All right.
So my audience will be
let us cut out the insidious and let us just say that when the challenges are beyond the prevailing or prevision, then what happens is that the CA fraternity, particularly the ICAI and the chartered accountants in practice and industry, they are among those whom the general society turns to as repositories of information and citadels of, you could say, rectitude or correctitude. Okay. This has happened during the 1992 scam. And at that time, you would be surprised how suddenly we came in for a climate of censure. Because in 1992, when the great scam happened, people were not so much surprised by those who may have contributed to it. People were surprised how it could escape so many chartered accountants. Okay, so greater therefore is the censure, because they value us so much, they place their trust. Now this paradox has been delectably captured in an aphorism in Skanda Puran. I'll give you that original Sanskrit aphorism, but before I come to that, let me explain in simple English what that Sanskrit actually means. It means that wrongs committed in other places can always be washed away or redressed in a holy place. But if incorrect things happen, bad things happen in a sacred place, then that can at times become indelible.
That's very well said.
But in the original Sanskrit, it is even more beautiful, I'll tell you. It says in Skanda Puran, Anya kshetre kritam papam, punya kshetre vinashyati. Punya kshetre kritam papam, vajralepo bhavishyati. It becomes indelible. And this risk to the profession and society now can become accentuated in the digital age, because we might be heading towards what is described often as info-feudalism, where there will be a few info barons who are in charge of networks, you could say, info barons, and there would be numerous workstation serfs. And we professionals, whether chartered accountants or other growing tribe, may be the interlocutors. In that case, we have to look at what the future holds for us.
Good, sir. So how do you envisage the future of our profession, which is ever changing now? And
Off the cuff, I would say that it took us 100 years to move from the post-Renaissance era. You have Luca Pasoli and the founder of the double entry bookkeeping, but that was cash basis. Then in the age of exploration, we went on to accrual basis, and finally in the colonial age we perfected the mercantile system, and we chartered accountants lived with it, but we had 100 years to get adjusted to it. But today, in less than a decade, much of what we already know may be rendered obsolete, and that is because it's going to have a serious impact on how we work, how we learn, how we stay connected, how we are regulated, and how our representations and appeals are even heard. The digital age is going to become bring fundamental shifts. Let's take a simple example like international taxation, so dear to the hearts of businessmen and chartered accountants. Our whole concept of the nexus for the taxing rights, which jurisdiction has taxing rights on what, is completely changing after BEPS and your OECD and all that. And even fundamental concepts like permanent establishment. You can't take a step in international except fundamental. We all know what is a permanent establishment. But the definition is becoming wider to the point where from the physical it is changing to the virtual. Okay? And your significant economic presence and your this equalization levy and all that sort of thing is going to be a portent of what is about to be ushered in. So I think if you are asking me for the future, then cyber governance and cyber security are going to be your important preoccupations. Not to mention the bigger challenge of when your weak AI becomes your strong AI and begins to have a pervasive influence in your daily life and your workstation.
AI is going to change the...
Absolutely.
So, sir, you have been, you have been having 50 years of this experience, 30 years of practice, and 20 years of industry.
Too long, you are saying
politely. The time you have spent in the profession.
But I am still in full-time employment at 76.
I know, so that's incredible, sir. So, what are your regrets? You might have something.
Regrets, yes. I think one very major regret. I was the president in the council meeting in, I think, in December 95 or January 96, somewhere there, where the withdrawal of the recognition for all the CA institutes of UK in one shot, the recognition was de-recognized. Okay.
Nice.
Now, why should it be a bother to me? I'll tell you. As a conscientious person, my membership of ICAI in 1971 was the sole reason I was admitted as a member of our CA Institute.
Right.
And therefore, the joke in the council, in good humor, I must admit, they said, never again shall we suffer a president who has not passed our tough exams, which you relate to. But I had a weak register. I had not foreseen that this was coming. I was oblivious. So I said to them, I will quote you the words of Shah Alam, who was the last effective Mughal emperor. I know there was a line after that, but effective. He capitulated after he was blinded, and then he said this. He said the line of Timur is now extinct. It started with the lame, but it has ended with the blind. However, to give my colleagues their due, there was an international development in terms of global trend spurring cooperation, and there was a restoration of that recognition on the more noble principle of reciprocity. However, the regret at that time was because this distant epiphany could not have been divined at that time. That was the regret.
So, in last 50 years, and especially while you were in the council and you were the president of the Institute of CA, what have been your notable contributions which are still being remembered?
Ah.
I remember one campus interview which you started before that.
But durable. You can say that by solitary durable attempt. I am using the word durable.
Yeah.
And that is how what had happened was this. The first campus placement ever was during my presidency.
So
In
the
May,
campus started
May
in
1995.
Wow.
250 candidates were interviewed in 4 different centers. Okay, but this is the good side. The obverse side of the coin was a huge censure descended on me. There were roadblocks. People asked me 2 main questions. They said, "Are you empowered to earn this kind of income from industry?" And second, more importantly, does this kind of service even come within the mandate of a self-regulating profession? I was the president. I will not bore you with the details of what happened, but somehow those roadblocks were overcome. It was a tough time, but we survived mainly not because of me, but all my colleagues. The credit must go to our entire team, president being only the first among equals. And then, of course, the campus placement program became a one-stop destination for recruitment of qualified CAs. This little baby born has become so strong now that today in 27 centers in India, 10,000 candidates are interviewed every 6 months. Okay, you can. And annually, there is a campus program for experienced CAs, for women CAs, and for overseas placement.
And besides giving a possibility to the members, institute makes money also.
Well, if you are going to end on that note, I would like to conclude by saying that this narrative or any sort of commemoration of me cannot be complete without my acknowledging the deep debt I owe to those faceless people who toil for the institute, your officials, people like our G. Ranganathan and many others like him. There is no head mark that distinguishes them, but I would like to acknowledge and even felicitate them, lest their loyalty and dedication remains incommunicable to next generation, and lest the torch, the sheer torch they have lighted, is not adequately handed over to the next generation. Thank you well, sir. I think I've said enough.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your nice words.
It's really an humbling experience to listen to this interview and the discussion between our illustrious past president CA Y.M.KALE sir and the anchor for today, our past chairman CA Sunil Goyal sir. I am sure I have learnt a lot, and after everyone who has listened to this recording and the video would have learnt a lot. It is really an humbling experience, and I am sure each one of you would have taken something which you can use in your life and ensure that your life changes for the better. Let me only say one thing, that the impeccable English, sir, which Mr. Y.M.KALE uses, it is really hats off to that English. And also, when we look behind it, the type of work which he has done, contributing to the international standards, being a past president of the ICAI, and like bringing the glory to the institute. Really, sir, thank you very much for all your good work which you've done for this profession. And Sunilji, let me also thank you for the amount of time that you spent on this whole Learning from Legend series. And also, one other important thing which I like to bring about Sunilji is, he is such a caring person, he does so much good work. People across India come to Mumbai and for studies, and his organization along with his colleagues help them with the boarding year and help in building their careers. Thank you.
That's our
Thanks a lot.